Shall I start? Yeah. Okay. I think in terms of quality of the audience, we are fine. And if people want to join us, they are, of course, most welcome. But as a token of respect for the people that will moderate and be members of the panels later today, I would like to start rather punctually. I think this afternoon we are privileged to host Mr. Stiprais, who is the EU Special Representative for Central Asia. Central Asia, which of course has been at the center of our attention in lots of conversations until now. And this is not only here in Baku in this forum, but I think globally speaking in terms of geopolitics, it's one of these places on Earth where there's a lot of attention paid to. Not the least also because it is an area between the European Union and China, a very vast area. So we feel very privileged to host you here. A couple of things about you. You are 57, which you wouldn't say when meeting you. You served as an ambassador to London and Paris, which are quite senior positions, I could imagine, in foreign policy also for Latvia, which is your country of origin, country that we know quite well, not the least because of the brilliant leadership of a former president of Latvia, of NGIC. And I read a little bit about you during a sleepless night. I read an interview where you said, "This is my dream job." It's your dream job, a mandate of 2 years, and your mandate, the task you have, is to, on the ground, so to say, to build Mrs. Kallas' vision and the European Commission's vision on the policy on Central Asia. Where I think in 2019 the European Union published a strategy about the future of Central Asia, and in 2023 then a joint roadmap about how to connect to this vast territory. In the background we have concepts like the Global Gateway, which play a very important role in the design of the policy from a European Union perspective. In the documents, I've seen that there are 4 priorities: transport, critical raw materials, water, energy, climate, and digital connectivity in terms of the concrete dossiers in the economic sphere where you work. But within your mandate, you also have, let's say, a role as representing the European Union in terms of looking after governance issues, human rights issues in this area. Last but not least, I think that Central Asia, of course, in terms of policy making, is of crucial importance in the competition, cooperation between the European Union and China. So this as a matter of introduction. You work on 4 or 5 countries, but not on Azerbaijan, which could, I think, geographically be considered as a kind of doorstep, entrance door to and also a logistical hub to Central Asia. Maybe we can start with giving you the floor for some minutes to describe what the essence is of the activities you have now, and then we can maybe engage in a more Q&A style conversation. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. I would say I'm particularly pleased because the moderator comes from the country which has become my second home. During my professional career, now I must say already 8 years, I lived and worked in Belgium altogether.
Welcome.
So whenever I speak French, people ask me, vous avez un accent belge, n'est-ce pas?
But never forget there is more than one language in Belgium.
Yes, absolutely. I know. I'm acutely aware. But speaking about why I continue telling that I landed my dream job, and this is that probably to compare with some of my colleagues doing similar job, I'm actually dealing with the region where there are not that much of news in terms of bad news, which are perceived as the only news. So we are speaking about the region which shows how closer cooperation is actually bringing benefits, which feels the necessity actually to work together because of internal and external factors. And when we speak about the external factors, just imagine the geographic map, the Central Asia in the middle, actually, of the Eurasian landmass, and whom are they boarding? Who are their neighbors? And what kind of challenges each of their neighbors is bringing in terms of security, in terms of economic competition, probably some market domination, and other things. So, in a way, they need to stick together to survive in this very, very turbulent world. And another possibility, which comes from their internal needs, that they are facing also considerable internal challenges where closer cooperation, sharing of their experience, brings the value added and helps each of them separately. We are speaking about, I would say, major challenges. The one is indeed climate and including the water issues. And probably the issue of water in Central Asia is the central one. Because for those of you who happen to travel in Central Asia, I think this is very sort of vividly, you could see that where there is a water, there is a life. The moment there is no water, I mean fresh water available, there is no life whatsoever. It's a barren land. So in order to survive, they need to cooperate on the rational use of water, on distribution of water. Another issue is also challenges created by some radical ideologies, including the propagation of radical Islam, amongst many other things. How to counter this? How to increase the resilience of their societies? So this is something where sharing their experiences, finding, if not common approaches, but at least some shared approaches, is something that is very much needed by the region. Why Central Asia is important for Europe, and probably not only for Europe? Because, I mean, this is our neighborhood, probably not immediate one, but actually we can say that in most cases there is just one country between us and Central Asia. On top of that, Central Asian countries, I mean, similarly as Azerbaijan, are actually part of our security architecture, being members of the OSCE. So we need to cooperate also on those and hopefully work on same principles regarding security, regarding good governance, regarding, yes, indeed, you mentioned human rights, but also economic cooperation. I mean, another so-called basket in the OSCE. So this is something. And of course, stability, security, and prosperity of the region is crucial for us in terms of both economic opportunities for European businesses. Why not? I think this is absolutely normal that we should also focus on economic benefits while engaging with other countries and regions. This is also a matter which is becoming extremely important, if not contentious, in Europe, and this is the issue of migration. It's not a big secret that, of course, it's not in our interest to have another hotspot of whatever violence or major natural calamity created migration flow into Europe. At the same time, probably we should focus on regulated migration, because Central Asia is one of few regions in the world with the positive demographic dynamics, with the young, comparatively well-educated population, with enormous potential as a labor force, both within the region, but also as available, taking into account also some negative demographic developments in Europe itself. So those are issues that we're looking. And of course, we speak about the connectivity, both across Central Asia with access to the Far East, China and beyond, and access to South Asia, which for the moment is blocked by developments in Afghanistan, but also with ongoing conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan. But otherwise, I mean, it is central. What we need for that? We need for that possibility to invest in Central Asia, which is both the interest of the recipient countries and in the interest of our businesses, creating decent jobs. Also, extremely important issue both for countries of Central Asia and also for Europe, and this is actually exploring critical raw materials, having access to them, developing the value-added chains within Central Asia. Actually not looking at just extracting those minerals, taking them out, creating the value somewhere else, and then selling worldwide.
Could we elaborate a little bit on this, the last part of your intervention and this concrete point? If you would have to summarize the 3-4 things you have to offer to the region, what would this be in terms of what you pointed at, economic development, connectivity, energy? We heard a lot about the corridors, you're pointing at the critical raw materials, but what is European Union bringing as added value to these countries, which could make these countries decide to indeed consider European Union as the preferred partner to?
Yes, I mean, there are 3 things which are necessary for economic and social development in Central Asia. I mean, one is financing, money. So we're speaking about 12 billion euros available under the Global Gateway Initiative, earmarked for Central Asian countries, of which approximately 3 billion is focused on connectivity, especially developing the Trans-Caspian transport corridor linking Central Asian countries to Southern Caucasus, namely to Azerbaijan as the main gateway there. We are speaking about approximately 6.5 billion euros dedicated to what we call the climate, energy and water nexus, exactly addressing the most contentious issue there. We are speaking about approximately 2.5 billion or so available for the support of the investments and trade. And finally, digital connectivity specifically, and this is comparatively small project, but extremely important one, bearing in mind what's happening now. And this is development of the internet connectivity using dedicated satellite platform, actually, which will be owned by the countries of Central Asia. It's not, like they would be just buying a service from us. No, they are becoming joint operators of this satellite platform.
As I mentioned before, Central Asia, there's an other side of Central Asia. I mean, beyond the limits of Central Asia, the other part is in China. How would you, because 12 billion sounds impressive, but you should benchmark against domestic investment, private investment, Chinese investment. So how do you position this European Union effort towards Central Asia, not the least with the purpose of unleashing the potential and helping the region to fulfill its potential. But how do you compare this if you position the European approach towards the Silk and Road initiative and other initiatives taken by China? How you see this?
We are both competitors, but we are also, in a way, if not partners, but at least situational allies with China. Because there are at least two issues where we have shared interests. The one is the stability in the region, the security of the region, and another one is connectivity. And I would say that on, if not on all, that on most of issues in these two areas, our activities are complementary. We are not coordinating, but I would say that it sort of naturally falls in places.
Can you illustrate it concretely? Can you
so,
give
for
some
example,
examples?
we are very much focused on the development of Trans-Caspian Transport Corridor, which actually, if you look at the connection across the Eurasian landmass, is really like getting from the West into Central Asia. Chinese colleagues, consciously or not, but they are actually focusing on the eastern part connection. Actually, for example, building this railway, the joint project between China, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan of the new railway line going from China across Kyrgyzstan into the Fergana Valley, and they're joining the existing rail network, actually opening way also for the connection to Turkmenistan, to the port of Turkmenbashi, which is the closest one to Azerbaijani shores of the Caspian. This is just one example. Also, we see that specific case of Tajikistan, both we and our Chinese colleagues, we are sharing concerns about the security of Tajikistan, looking at some threats that they are facing from the Afghan territory, where the current de facto government is either not able or not willing to ensure full control, security control over its northern border. And where, according to some estimates, we are speaking about several thousand of combat-hardened foreign terrorist fighters who returned from the Middle East to that region, actually of Central Asian origin, who fought in the Middle East, and now they are coming back to the region, and who are posing immediate threat. There is also threat from criminal structures, drug smuggling. In actually increasing security of that border, European Union invested a considerable amount of money. We are actually completing this year a project equipment 800 kilometers out of 1,400 kilometers, the total border between Tajikistan and Afghanistan, with necessary surveillance equipment. And now China is stepping in and also providing some additional support for the remaining part of the border. It was not coordinated. No. It just naturally happened.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about the traditional, very well-developed tradition of European Union and the whole of European Union system, including the European Parliament, to add some conditionality to cooperation, help cooperation, just economic cooperation, and to interfere with domestic affairs? Is this something which is managed and clear in a transparent way? To what extent the European Union can put aside its, let's say, its normal being inclined to point at all kinds of things that are not completely in accordance to the dreams of liberal democracies in the West?
I would say first and foremost, I may be mistaken, but my impression is we never asked anything beyond what the countries themselves subscribe to. As I mentioned, they are all members of the OEC. So the principles of the Helsinki Final Act, they must follow them. I mean, they are all members of the United Nations. I mean, they all accepted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this is one thing. That's purely from the legal point of view. From the substance point of view, I think probably we should more use rhetoric which says that, I mean, we are not speaking about the, some abstract principles which should be observed. So, no, we are speaking about measures which are necessary for your own societies to obtain additional resilience when they have to face different external challenges and also some sort of homegrown challenges. So, good governance, it's not something that you need because it's nice to have. No, if you want to run your country efficiently, if you want to attract investments, and in some areas we're speaking investments, private investments, in terms of hundreds of millions of billions of euros or dollars. We are speaking about the companies which are stock exchange listed. We are speaking about companies which are experiencing pressure from different activist and interest groups, activist shareholders, activist consumers, and so on. For them, I mean, to go to invest in the country with weak governance, with complete disregard for basic principles enshrined in the, as I said, the Helsinki Final Act and the, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, this is a real reputational risk. And on top of that, if there is no real functioning judiciary, the level of corruption is too high, those are also financial risks that they are facing. To lose investments, to write off investments in hundreds of billions of euros, this is something that none of those companies can afford.
Thank you. Last question from my side before turning to the audience for questions. We've of course all shared the assessment, the analysis that the multilateral system is broken, it doesn't work currently, and the idea of starting from what we have acquired of good record with the United Nations, but that in order to rebuild a credible multilateral system, that we need to give more space to regional organizations to be strengthened in their action, and also alliances of what we then call mid-sized powers. And in Central Asia, you have some of these mid-sized powers that are indeed active. Then on the other side of the continent, you have China that came with a global governance initiative. Is the European Union, with all its complexity, seriously considering, for instance, to try to work together with countries like Kazakhstan, like Uzbekistan, just to name a few, to sit together and to try to take concrete action in a coordination with them to rebuild that multilateral system? Is this also on the agenda of conversations, of contacts you have as a special envoy of the European Union in that region?
You're absolutely right. All 5 countries I'm dealing with are very strong supporters of multilateral diplomacy. For them, rules-based international order is, however weak, but the only guarantee of their independence, of their territorial integrity, and their sovereignty. Frankly speaking, none of them is able to withstand if there is some sort of the malign action by some of the great powers which they are bordering. So we are allies, not only situational ones. We are allies because we are thinking the same way. And you can see, for example, in Vienna, I know that my colleagues, they have very close contacts with delegations of Central Asian countries. They have regular coordination meetings and discussing issues and looking what could be done together. Something similar happens also in UN structures, probably not as often. But yes, I must say, in this respect, Central Asian countries are true allies of the European Union.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite colleagues in the room now. We have some minutes more to ask their questions they would have about Central Asia and the EU approach and the EU policy towards Central Asia. I don't see very clearly into the room. I think I see at least one hand there. If there is a microphone, that could be helpful.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
I think I have the microphone. Oh,
sorry.
Well, I will yield to the gentle lady to my right and then come to me.
Please, yeah.
I go ahead? Yes. Thank you very much for this very valuable conversation. One thing really that I would like to underline is what you've just said now about conditionality and whether when you ratify a human rights convention, you are independent at the national level or you are vulnerable to international intervention in your internal affairs. We all know that ratifying the conventions on human rights, you report to treaty bodies, and treaty bodies are exactly like tribunals, and they do ask meticulous questions. It's more than interference in internal affairs, but states accepted it. What we would like to clarify, and I really like the way you presented, the political declarations that are thrown here and there, now and then, in certain cases, to corner certain countries with regards to human rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe the question also further in the room? Yeah, please.
So I would, oh.
My name is Mushira Khattab from Egypt.
Yeah, I'm Peter Galbraith from the United States. And I would like to ask about the relationship between the Central Asian states and Afghanistan, particularly Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. As you know, there are a large number of Tajiks in Afghanistan. Ahmed Shah Massoud is the son is based in Tajikistan. The Afghan resistance has national resistance has operated out of there, perhaps with not any particular effectiveness. But to what extent is Rahman and Tajikistan supporting the Tajik resistance to the Taliban? And what about Uzbekistan and the Uzbek population? And well, for that matter, Turkmenistan and the Turkmen population.
Please.
Okay. First, on international human rights bodies, and so as I mentioned, I mean, we are not asking anything more that countries subscribe themselves. Indeed, those review processes, they are taking place independently from our bilateral relations with country X, Y, or Z. Of course, we are using those reports prepared by international bodies, should it be UN bodies, or in this case, we are speaking about the different OSCE bodies, including the Office for Democratic
Oh dear.
Yeah, institutions. Oh dear. And this is something we are basing on. We are having with each country of Central Asia separate bilateral dialogues on human rights, where discussions are taking place in, I must say, in a very collegial manner. And more we avoid something which is called the megaphone diplomacy, just publicly accusing somebody, but not really engaging in discussing this issue with people who are responsible for practical implementation of those principles in their respective countries. This is the only way forward. So I would say more we are engaging on this practical level, on technical level, more of practical result, of practical outcome we'll get out of it. On the role of Central Asian countries in a possible support of opposition in Afghanistan, as far as I know, it is not taking place. Even during the previous Taliban's sort of regime in 1990s, neighboring countries have actually tried to stay away from the internal matters of Afghanistan. So I presume there were some clandestine intelligence operations, but at least not that much of it sipped onto the surface. And the principle is, let's call it a gentleman's agreement. We do not interfere in your matters, and you refrain from trying to export your radical worldview into our territory. And so far, Taliban actually is fulfilling this sort of the gentleman's agreement. They are staying within their own borders, at least in the north. What is happening on the Pakistani border, this is another story. And I wouldn't dwell into all the history and why Pashtuns, they are not respecting the Durand line. In the north, this is a sort of the coexistence. It goes beyond the just coexistence. Bordering countries, but also Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, which is not bordering on Afghanistan, they understand that the collapse, economic and social collapse of Afghanistan is for them creating more threats than the current regime in Kabul, run from Kandahar, by the way. So they see some engagement, economic engagement, social engagement, humanitarian engagement as necessary steps to maintain acceptable level of stability. Of course, they are not happy what is happening with their respective minorities, their kin living across the border. Both Tajiks and Uzbeks are being gradually pushed out of any sort of the decision-making within the country. For example, also the role of Tajik or Dari in the public administration is also diminishing, is being replaced by Pashto. There is the policy of Pashtunization of northern part of Afghanistan by resettling refugees being expelled both by Pakistan and Iran from their territories into Afghanistan. And in the south, in the traditional areas, there is no more arable land, there is no more water. Kabul is running out of drinking water. So they are putting them in the north, they are constructing the Koshtepe Canal actually to create additional arable land to feed the population. Situation is not easy. And our Central Asian partners, they are doing their best sort of have a more or less peaceful coexistence and try to keep certain level of stability and security south of the border.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. Thank you for this very interesting contribution to our activities.
Thank you.
Fascinating. Thank you.